Alright, this is going to be painful, but this is happening, goddammit. I'm not turning on the dome light because it's a bitch to drive when that's on. So you're going to have to deal with the occasional street light coming through. Just got done listening to this thing on NPR about why ISIS fights. I don't think that was the title because that happens to be the headline of a different CNN article, but that was the gist of the whole thing. And yeah, my phone's in portrait mode. Fuck you, because the phone holder in my car doesn't work well in landscape mode. So listening to this NPR story that went on for a good 5 minutes or so, several experts, authors, whatever, talking about how battlefield losses on the part of ISIS are viewed as victories by ISIS and their followers because they perceive them as quote-unquote preordained by God. It is part of God's plan. If they lose a battle, if they lose 10,000 fighters in a battle, it was preordained. It was God's plan. Therefore, it's all good. And they go on to talk about the differences between, for instance, Al-Qaeda's philosophy about how the caliphate could wait. The caliphate, it's not time for the Islamic Empire, and the at the core of what this new caliph, this dude that's the think tank for ISIS, is espousing that it is time and the followers don't need to wait. And so they're rallying people to the cause with that it's time now. This is the final conflict. This is God's plan. Okay, that's the part that obviously is driving me batshit crazy. This God's plan shit. It's the year 2016, and we have millions upon millions of people who are either, they are comprised of people who are, one, willing to fight and die for something they perceive as God's plan, and that takes shape on both sides of the conflict, whatever that conflict might be. You pick any of hundreds across the globe. That God's plan is that we are to fight and die for this cause, or God's plan is that we are to stop these people from fulfilling their cause, and so forth. And so everybody's fighting for God's plan. Millions upon millions. And that's not bullshit. Yes, I concede fully that in the case of ISIS, they don't have anywhere near 1 million fighters on the ground with guns and knives and sticks and rocks and all the shit that they do. But in total, the number of people around the globe that covertly or overtly support what it is they're espousing, and even go so far as to tangibly support their efforts, easily 1 million. I'll give you that. 1 million. Round figure. The deeper irony comes from, now let's come back to this God's plan bullshit. Those who are willing to, the majority of those who are willing to stand opposed to what it is that, again, the example being ISIS, are espousing, are doing so with their hands gripped in prayer. Through the power of prayer, they are beseeching the deity to ensure that these misguided people, these people who are proclaiming that it is the same God's fucking plan to take territory and kill infidels, that they not succeed. They're beseeching the same deity. None of them will admit that, because you have, as always, the no true Scotsman fallacy being, oh, fuck you, I'm going 35, bitch. In full effect, because they're not doing it right. They're they're not really fulfilling the real God's plan, or they're not doing it correctly, or it's actually Satan. Satan has clouded their minds and is guiding their actions. It's 2016 and we have grown adults acting as though mystic, invisible bullshit is valid grounds for taking territory and taking lives. This is fucking madness. This is just absolute batshit fucking crazy. Okay, that being said, if we let's run full steam with the hypothetical. We remove from the equation the investment in this thing called God's plan on all sides. Let's say we are able to shine a light on reality for these people who are driven by God's plan on either side of the equation. We shine a light on the facts and reveal ain't no such fucking thing. There's no goddamn God's plan either driving your opposition to someone else's fulfillment of God's plan or driving your own fulfillment of God's plan. There's no such fucking thing. So we shine a light on that, we reveal it, and a significant number of people accept it and say, holy shit, what the fuck have I been doing all this time? What is wrong with me? There are those who will, given ample opportunity to see reason, come to terms with the fact that what they have been fighting for does not exist. Okay? So there will be a certain number that will fall by the wayside. They will put down their weapons, they will stop their aggression, and they will move on. At the same time, there will always be those who either reject the evidence that you provide, reject the reason that you provide that counters their fearful ideology, and they'll continue fighting. Now, there are those who will say that, okay, we remove from the equation this assertion that it is God's will, God's plan that they fight. Even those who will accept that as being true, that they're, this thing that they've been fighting for simply doesn't exist, they will continue fighting. They'll continue fighting for other reasons. They'll continue fighting because they have nothing else to do. That may very well be true. But you will have at least neutered a very a toxic. Okay, let's look at that for a second. You will have removed a toxic psychological element that drives why they fight. There's no longer God's plan. There never was. There never will be. It simply doesn't exist. It's a fantasy, and it's a falsehood that needs to go away. What you then have is an open wound that has to be resolved by some explanation. That for those who, in the absence of God's plan, will continue to fight, the reason for their fighting has to be contended with. It has to be dealt with. And whether that be socioeconomic oppression, inopportunity, racial discrimination, cultural discrimination, whatever it might be, those things then have to be dealt with on face value. And the only way that you're ever going to get to those things, which are legitimate driving causes for people lashing out and fighting for their survival, you can't get to those things and address those things and effectively deal with those things when you have mystical pile of shit that is woven into the fabric of how everybody thinks, feels, believes, and behaves. You cannot get to effectively removing the bigotry, the misogyny, the hatred, the loathing, the ignorance, until you get rid of the ignorance. And keeping the ignorance cemented in place is this insane idea that there is a God's plan that is driving your actions. Whether your actions be benevolent or malevolent, it doesn't matter. It's the idea that something non-existent, completely unfounded, completely contradictory is driving your behavior that is keeping the ignorance in place. And as long as the ignorance remains in place, the things like socioeconomic disenfranchisement, cultural bigotry, misogyny, and these things are going to be propagated and remain healthy and strong. Getting rid of the fundamental feeding system for ignorance, which is this religious insanity that drives at the core these fucking conflicts, I think is fundamental to this ever fucking changing. It just, without driving that out of the equation, you can't get to truly deal with the tangible issues that are legitimately driving people to the desire to kill and fight and conquer and get a piece for themselves. It just, and then it's a whole other topic to discuss how legitimate news sources are treating the idea of God's plan as either legitimate, worthwhile, substantial, and so forth. The fact that people believe that it's there is something to be dealt with. That I have no issue with. That is in fact what I'm saying. But to treat it as though it's a true thing, to talk about how Christians in the United States are praying for, ISIS's defeat. What the fuck is that? What does it even mean? And to treat that as though that's a legitimate action, like that's some sort of tangible, reasonable thing to do? No, it isn't. Stop it. Jesus fucking Christ. Grow the fuck up. Anyway, there it is. Stop the stupid and be a fucking adult. Ugh, you motherfuckers.